Continuing our discussion of lame cow, W is for winds. We are moving on to part 2, talking about winds created from pressure differences. We've talked a lot already about the low and high pressures systems that can form based on the earth heating unevenly and how the molecules are moving in the atmosphere. But today, we're really going to focus in on those two types of pressure cells. And specifically, what types of winds are associated with them. We know a lot about the high and the low already. Now we're adding where the wind is coming from and a rotation to the discussion. Okay, so starting out with our weather map here, we can see both the high and the low on the weather map. The high in this location, highest pressure of 1020, and the lowest pressure over here of 992. So we have our two pockets of pressure systems. Now we want to think about how are the winds coming in and out of those pressure systems and what is the rotation like. So if I look at the H up there, I can see the arrows are moving out of the high pressure system. So we know that winds blow out of high pressure cells. And we already knew that a little bit. We know that winds are created by air moving from high to low. So as the air has to exit the high, it's of course leaving the high pressure system going to the low. So we're going to see those arrows coming out of high pressure. And we notice that they curve slightly. Right? As they come out of the middle of the pressure cell, they curve to the right, and that creates a clockwise circulation. And again, if we look at this weather map and we follow the arrows here, we are seeing that clockwise circulation start to form around the high pressure. So we know a lot about high pressure already, cool sinking air, high and dry, but we are now adding a new topic in. The air is coming out of high pressure as it moves to low, and it does so in a clockwise fashion. Now, like we have already seen several times with high and low pressure, whatever occurs in the one, we can expect the opposite in the other. So in case of the low pressure system, winds are blowing into low pressure cells. And again, referring to the map, we see all those arrows pointing in to the low pressure system. And as those arrows or the winds are coming into the low pressure system, we of course are seeing them curve. Now they are curving more to the left, and that difference of a curve creates that counterclockwise motion that we see again on the map. Looking at counterclockwise, going the opposite direction, the hands on a clock would. So on the right-hand side, you've got a giant H and a giant L to add in arrows of your own. Do the best you can to get them to show the direction of motion. We know L, of course, has the arrows coming in. I would just pick maybe 3 or 4 arrows to copy in. And I would just make a note on the side that the low pressure is going counterclockwise. So low pressure, we're always having air coming in a counterclockwise fashion. High pressure, on the other hand, has the air going out. As that air comes out, it definitely is moving in a clockwise direction. So again, make a note around those H and the L's on the right-hand side so you can get an idea of your own flow of air around the high and low pressure systems. Now, as we track these winds across the globe, we notice that they don't appear to blow in a straight motion, but they have a curve to them. We notice that rather than going straight, we see these air masses curve to the right. And this is because of something called the Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect occurs because of the rotation of Earth. as the Earth rotates, these air masses are moving across the atmosphere unattached to the Earth's surface. And as they're moving across, the Earth is rotating underneath them, causing their paths again to appear curved or appear deflected. In the northern hemisphere, we notice that the air curves to the right. So as the air mass is traveling from point A to point B, it's going on its merry way. However, because the Earth rotates underneath, it's literally the ground is moving under your feet and it curves ever so slightly, missing a straight destination. Now I've got an airplane on here because a pilot has to take this into account too. As he is traveling through the atmosphere unattached to the Earth, if you just set your GPS on straight, you won't hit your final destination because it'll literally be moving underneath your feet. In the southern hemisphere, we notice something a little bit different. The air is curving to the left. And that's not because the bottom of the Earth rotates differently, it's just a perspective from the pole. Finally, it's important to note that the faster the wind goes, the more it curves. So when we're talking about large storms like hurricanes, they're going to have a bigger deflection than a small, steady, regular paced air mass. Okay, so again, looking at this diagram, seeing what's happening with the high and low pressure systems, we know for sure vertical motion of high pressure, we've discussed several times. Vertical motion of high pressure is of course sinking, whereas the vertical motion of low pressure is of course rising, and we can see those again in our diagram. The nice outward motion of the air in the high pressure going clockwise, and the nice motion of the low pressure going in and counterclockwise. Now the type of pressure system that typically have clouds and rain, again looking at our diagram, we can see this cloud is forming above low pressure, which is the most common pressure system to bring precipitation. One more quick review. Thinking about high and low pressure, how they not only move, but why they're moving that way because of their density and temperature. Go ahead and take a quick pause and fill in your blanks based on the choices in yellow that you see on the screen. So in a high pressure area, air will blank. You have two choices, either rise or sink. And again, we're answering these in terms of high pressure. High pressure, of course, is going to sink within the atmosphere because it is more dense, right? The reason it's sinking is because the density is higher, more molecules compacted together. This is happening because the air is at a colder temperature, which again causes it to sink, making clouds unlikely to form in a high pressure system, high and dry. That's what we talked about. In reverse, thinking about low pressure, again, pause, fill in your blanks with the choices in yellow. In a low pressure area, air, of course, is going to rise. It is rising because it is less dense due to the structure of the molecules. They are more spread out because the air is warmer, again, causing it to rise, making clouds and precipitation likely to form in this type of pressure system. So again, overall recap, we're talking about low and high pressure, several different factors coming into the picture. Low, we know, is warm rising air with clouds, whereas high pressure is that cool sinking air that tends to stay no clouds or dry, high and dry. We added today the motion clockwise, counterclockwise, and towards or away from the center. Okay? Low pressure has the air coming towards the center in a counterclockwise fashion. High pressure is always going to be the opposite. High pressure, the air is leaving the system. Whoops. going from the high to the low, away from center, and as it does that, it is going in a simple clockwise direction. Okay, so this is definitely new things that we added to our list, knowing about high and low pressure. These are our two new ones of the day. Make sure you have a good understanding of those and how you could label and draw them on a map. Take a break, take a pause, check out your summary questions and see which ones you can now answer based on our discussion of high and low pressure.